everyone, this is Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game sales. It is February 3rd, 2022, and in today's video, we are going to check out the Nintendo financial result for their fiscal year quarter 3, which ends December 31st. That's the calendar year quarter 4, going from October 1st through December 31st. We're going to check out hardware and software numbers, some other cool stuff in here. And yes, I did make a little video last night detailing some of the information, but here I want to give you a visual guide and go further in depth. So, right off the bat, 103.54 million Nintendo Switch units have officially been sold worldwide as of December 31st, 2021. That is mind-blowing. This puts Nintendo Switch as the #1 best-selling home console in Nintendo platform history. If you look at what was the previous #1 spot, it was Wii with 101.63. So right there, you almost have 2 million more Nintendo Switch units sold than Wii. Wii didn't hit 101.63 million units until into Wii U's life. Wii U came out 6 years after Wii. So we took over 6.5 years to get this high. Nintendo Switch is almost 2 million higher at less than 5 years' time. This is awesome. This is 58 months. 4 years and 10 months basically is all it took to do 103.54 million. It is the fastest system to ever do it as far as home consoles go. If you want to talk fastest ever to do it, that would be the DS. And the Nintendo DS, for that matter, is still Nintendo's highest selling video game console in any category ever, with 154.02 million sold worldwide. Game Boy, which includes Game Boy Color, comes in at second currently with 118.69 million. So that right there is awesome. Nintendo Switch is Nintendo's third best-selling platform ever. It is the fastest home console ever to hit 100. Only DS hit 100 million faster than it. On the software side of things, this is another beautiful number to look at, and I'll break this down more for you in a moment. But 766.41 million pieces of software have been sold worldwide on Nintendo Switch. Just look at how this topples over the Nintendo 3DS, right? Doubling its software. Staggering. This 766.41 million is far ahead of Wii U. What's also interesting, actually, is that more Nintendo Switch consoles have sold than all of Wii U's software. That's got to be some type of record. But this 750 million is only behind Wii's 921 million and DS's 948 million. Nintendo Switch is on the trajectory that it will become Nintendo's first console to move 1 billion software units. And that's going to be an awesome day when we get that. If you look at past Nintendo hardware, nothing comes close to Nintendo Switch. I'm really proud of Nintendo for turning things around. You know, they were kings of the castle in the Super Nintendo era, and they still held on to that. Well, I should say they were kings of the castle in the NES era, and they held on to that with the SNES, but it went down. And in N64, okay, they were no longer market leader, and sales went down. And Nintendo GameCube, sales went down again. Wii was this shift where you saw this trajectory going, 62 million, 50 million, 33 million, 22 million. It's going down. 101. And then Wii U was not received well, unfortunately, despite it being a good console with good quality games, but that's another story for another day. Nintendo was having a difficult time adapting to the HD era because they came in later, if you think about it, than their competitors, both Sony and Microsoft and third parties. All of those folks were developing HD games as of 2003. Nintendo didn't really start until 2010. So that's several years behind. They didn't have that foresight necessarily to see how much longer it took games to develop. You could also make the argument that the console's shape design was too close to Wii. The name of Wii U was a little bit too confusing to people. The marketing of whether this thing is a designated new video game home console or just the ability to play Wii games now on a tablet, wasn't quite sure. The Wii momentum kind of ended. This came out a little bit too late, and despite being 1 year as the most powerful platform on the market, it was only 1 year until PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out, which far exceeded its power levels. And then you got back to this scenario of a lot of the third-party games aren't coming out on Wii U, and Wii U actually needed the third-party games because first party, they were nailing it, but they were kind of too few and far between because it was taking too long to make them. I wasn't expecting to break down some of the reasons why Wii U was a failure for Nintendo in this video, but hey, I did, and there you have it. And actually, that Wii U trajectory, if you take out Wii, look at what GameCube did, 21, and what comes next, 13. So they went like this, and then they went boom to their worst. And now we're at the best. Now, if you look at the portable console side of things, Nintendo has always had hits here. 118 million Game Boy, okay, 81 million Game Boy Advance, but 154 million DS, and then, okay, we got 75 million 3DS, but every portable console of theirs has always been a really successful platform. Nintendo Switch is a designated home console, but it also serves as a portable console. It is, after all, a true hybrid console, but we've got awesome results of 103.54 million. If we take a look at the software side of things, this is how the new top 10 looks like. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, as no surprise, is number 1 with 43.35 million pieces of software sold worldwide. That is about 41.8% of all Nintendo Switch owners have this game. Now, I will say this does include some free copies, like when Nintendo has their holiday bundle limited time and they're packaging for $300 a Nintendo Switch and a scratch-off digital code for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is included in there. So if you want to look at it as, well, it's a $300 system with a free game, or it's a discounted $240 system with a $60 game. However you want to look at it, part of this game's sales and success, its numbers, come from those packaged in bundles. But regardless, the game is still selling well independently via designated eShop sales and actual physical cartridges being purchased. But still, awesome props. I mean, this is a wonderful number. We're probably going to get to 50 million, by this time next year, which is just awesome. At number 2 is Animal Crossing New Horizons with 37.62 million. And keep in mind, these games on this list only once in a while go on sale. They're never a part of this long, year-round Player's Choice reduced price $30, $20 lineup. When Nintendo eventually gets there, which I think they will, but they don't have to yet. These things are still selling so well. Expect another bump. Expect some long life out of Nintendo Switch as a console and as its software sales. Wow. In third is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is now at 27.4 million. Both Animal Crossing and Smash Bros. Are the series' best sellers, as is Mario Kart. That's 3 in a row. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild with 25.8 million. That's wonderful because it's the best-selling Zelda game of all time. Leaps and bounds over any previous Zelda. I'm really excited for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild's sequel. I'm happy that Nintendo is taking its time. Make it perfect. Make it better than the original. Maybe it won't be as impactful, but make it better. And the game is going to just be another 20 million seller probably. Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield with 23.9 million. Think about this. In the Pokemon franchise's 25-year history, Pokemon Red, Blue, Green came out here. Gold and Silver came out and sold just under it. And then everything else has gone up and down throughout the years. But nothing has ever come close to that number 2 spot. Gold and Silver didn't even beat the originals, but nothing ever came close to number 2 till now. I said this a few weeks ago that Pokemon Sword and Shield did pass Gold and Silver, but now we could see that officially from Nintendo that what I said was correct. 23.9 million passes Gold and Silver. This is the second best-selling pair of Pokemon games this Generation 8 in Pokemon franchise history, and that is a beautiful thing to see. I'm happy that the series is going forward more and more. I'm happy that Pokemon Legends Arceus is off to a great start as well. We'll get to that one in a little bit. Super Mario Odyssey is next with 23.02 million. Best-selling 3D Mario game of all time. It's still selling quarter by quarter very well. Super Mario Party is next with 17.39 million. Best-selling Mario Party game. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee with 14.33 million. Also very impressive. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl. You know, the game that came out November 19th, that was out for exactly 6 weeks in the end of 2021. In that 6 weeks time, exactly 42 days, it sold 13.97 million. That is awesome. It's going to blow past these two very soon, and yeah, probably come in right under Super Mario Party by the time we get another fiscal result. Could it even sell more and actually top this? That would be impressive. It would require, 3.4 million in the next 3 months. That's entirely possible. Cool. Let's continue. Ring Fit Adventure at 10th for the 10th best-selling Nintendo Switch game in the console's less than 5-year life. You might have noticed, hey, what happened to Splatoon 2? Splatoon 2 is still up there. It's still a top 20 best-selling Nintendo Switch game, but things are getting into this list little by little. And to credit of Nintendo and Pokemon Company, all these franchises are doing the best numbers yet. And new IP like Ring Fit Adventure is on. Storied franchises like Mario and Pokemon are successful. Zelda, best time in its history. Smash Brothers, like Nintendo Switch effect is a real thing. And you're going to see something else that I'm very proud of in a moment. But if you watched last night's video, you already know what I'm talking about. And that's Metroid Dread. Yet one more proof that in Nintendo Switch era, you release a game that's good quality, the install base of the system is so big, the community is so vibrant, people are so passionate and love the console. Almost 5 years in, it doesn't feel old, it still feels magical. There's nothing else quite like it, even as competition is coming out, like with Steam Deck and stuff like that. This is a home console. It's got cartridges, it's got download, it's got easy upgradable storage. It comes with a dock to play on TV, to play in kickstand mode, has detachable controllers that come sideways. Every console is built with 2 players in mind from the start. You could do fun things like connect your systems together. You have IR control. You have fun things like Labo come out. Nintendo is thriving off of experimenting with things, because if those experiments aren't gangbusters success, it's okay. They have enough successes that they could take little risks, and if those little risks aren't hit, they're fine. And even the games that like are the big, okay, we're putting a lot of money into this one, it better do well, they're doing well. On the Zelda level, things are doing well. On the smaller level, like Ring Fit Adventure, not to say that that wasn't a small risk, but it's obviously not as grand of a game in terms of development and amount of hours spent, years spent, budget spent. It's doing well. So now's the time. I keep saying this in quite a few of my videos. Bring back your classic franchises. Now is a time to develop a solid Star Fox, a solid F-Zero. You bring back Wave Race, Excite Bike, and 1080p snowboarding, and you put it into one game, Nintendo Extreme Sports Racing, and you create a new IP based off of those 3 games in one. You get out a new Kid Icarus. I'm glad that we're seeing Kirby come back. I'm glad that we have Yoshi and Fire Emblem and Xenoblade is thriving, but it's time to do some more. Get Golden Sun out here, get Eternal Darkness out here, partner with some trusted third parties, some trusted indie developers to make it happen, because you have such a strong ecosystem right now. Widen it more and more, which Nintendo is doing, but let's see that punch out. Let's get it so that when people think Nintendo, they're not just thinking Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Pokemon, but it's Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Pokemon, Smash Brothers, Pikmin, Metroid, Kirby, Fire Emblem, Xenoblade, Punch-Out, F-Zero. Make it so that most people out there think of all of these things, because Nintendo easily has 40 plus franchises that are awesome, but most of those 40 aren't used a lot. Not to say they rely too much on Mario, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Zelda, but those are the ones that you can expect every generation, and they do well. And they do experiment with okay, here's a Punch-Out on Wii, and we haven't seen Punch-Out in a while. All right, here's a Donkey Kong. We don't get those all the time, but start doing with that with some more. Put that on Nintendo Switch's lineup, especially if, like Shuntaro Furukawa said, Nintendo Switch is approximately in its halfway point. Now, will the system have 10 years of life before another platform comes out to succeed it? I wouldn't quite go that far. I don't think, March 2027 is going to be when Nintendo releases new hardware and nothing in between. But I think that the system will completely be supported from a software standpoint through then. So in my mind, I'm seeing, all right, like a Nintendo Switch 2 potentially coming out November 2023, March 2024, just a thought. But when that comes out, Nintendo Switch software still being released for the base model, cross-gen support for the new Nintendo Switch model for a couple of more years. So if we get, like, let's say a March 2024 Nintendo Switch 2, expect through November or so of 2026 Nintendo Switch to still have some games released for it. And then there you go. That's basically 9 years, as 4 months later, 2027 March, that would be the 10th anniversary, and perhaps that point you're seeing some reduced priced hardware, reduced priced software, maybe a couple of small Nintendo titles coming out, a few small third-party games, and indie support that can still support both, right? Both Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. That's kind of my vision for it. We'll see how close I am, though. The ratio is a pretty cool one to look at, back to the actual sales conversation. For fiscal year 2022, going from quarter 1 to quarter 3, we got Japan with 21%, the Americas with 42.8%, Europe with 26.5%, and other regions totaling 9.7%. Let's see, we've got some other cool things to look at, and that's mostly software sales for the quarter. I find this stuff to be intriguing. So we know that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl sold 13.97 million, but how well did some other Nintendo Switch software sell just in that period of time? 7.96 million to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That's staggering, is it not? Mario Party Superstars with 5.43 million. The number of million seller titles on Nintendo Switch for the fiscal year 2022, 29. 29 separate games sold at least 1 million in this last year. And we're still not done. We have until March 31st, 2022 before the fiscal year of theirs is finished. 7 titles by other software publishers. That's really cool to see too. On that hardware side, we see 24.1 million so far, 18.95 for these 3 quarters. Nintendo should finish off the next several million within this next quarter. Nintendo Switch itself moved over 10 million in these last 3 months itself. So its total now is over 103, but just in the last quarter, 10 million sold. Most of Nintendo's hardware traditionally and software sells in those last 3 months. So though every hardware manufacturer sees a boost in the holiday season, Nintendo's is kind of disproportionate in comparison, where it's got a big chunk there. Nintendo sells well in each of the first 3 quarters of the calendar year, but in that fourth quarter, it's families buying systems. Families buying systems for kids, for siblings, multiple copies of games sold for different SKUs. You know, it's this lifelong legacy and fandom that Nintendo has created with its franchises and IP that you buy forever, and you're forever into it. No matter what age you hop in, you'll probably always be a fan. Not to say everyone loves Nintendo, but there's obviously a great amount of people that do. And it's kind of like why a successful, good quality animated movie does well. Well, because the kids want to see it, the parents might have nostalgia for it, perhaps based off of their youth. They have to see it with the kids, and then you go see it multiple times at that. Nintendo Switch selling multiple copies, multiple games, multiple franchises. It appeals to a wide variety of folks. And when do people buy the most throughout the year? In the holidays. So that's why the Nintendo side of the industry has this big chunk in quarter four. Let's see. Let's read some more stuff. Cumulative global Nintendo Switch family sell-through has surpassed 100 million units, sales rising to the second highest level ever despite scarcity due to delays in production and distribution, especially in North America since Black Friday. If Nintendo could pump out more, they would be selling more, which is wild. Don't forget, they reduced their forecast. They were originally going to sell more than their 24 million for the full year, and they had to reduce it, chip shortages and whatnot. You can see the Nintendo Switch OLED model made up a pretty good chunk, pretty close to the Nintendo Switch Lite, despite this only being out for 12 weeks in the year, this one being out for the whole year, and obviously this being out for the whole year. Annual playing users, 98 plus million. So of the 103.5 million people, 98 million of those are playing Nintendo Switch annually. That's really good. So yeah, 5.5 aren't really the most active, but this is over 95% of the user base is actually playing it actively, having a good time, and I think that's really cool. Here we have a sell-through figure, and let's see, I could scroll. Well, I guess that's a good image right there. I apologize. I'll scroll later. My picture-in-picture is occupying a little bit of that spot. The sell-through from October through December saw the highest quarterly sales since the launch of Nintendo Switch. The sell-through grew with a continued good balance of new titles and previously released titles. Obviously, new titles like Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl sold 11.7 million in that April through December time period. Mario Party Superstars at 4.8. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD 3.2. Metroid Dread on this sell-through 2.3. Mario Golf Super Rush 2 million. Previously released titles: Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 7.7, Animal Crossing at 5, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury at 3.7, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with 3.3. You can't see that, so I'll scroll. And The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at 3.1. Really cool to see. We see a good amount of digital sales. 40% seems to be in line with how it's doing based off of the previous year's quarter and this year's quarter in comparison. 40.9, 40.2. fair comparison. You could look at a little bit more of a breakdown between which games are having a higher distribution on physical versus digital. Here's an early look at announced Nintendo products. Of course, Pokemon Legends Arceus came out. Awesome success. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Can't wait for that one. And yeah, here's another little look. I put a post of this on Twitter as well, which I will get to in a little bit, but here's basically where I got the information from. We see Pokemon, Mario Kart, Mario Party, Animal Crossing, boom, 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 Metroid Dread 2.74. And you go all the way, Super Mario Party, New Pokemon Snap. New Pokemon Snap doesn't include the full Japanese numbers, but when you include Japanese numbers, the game actually is higher, and that's because different publishing ownership from Japan versus rest of the world. And yeah, stuff like Big Brain Academy came out in December. 1,280,000 copies sold. Luigi's Mansion 3, another big hit. 11,040,000. Miitopia is a 1.63 million seller. Great stuff, right? Game Builder Garage, a 1,010,000 unit seller. WarioWare Get It Together, that's a small game that came out in the middle of 2021. It's a 1.24 million unit seller. Mario Golf Super Rush, like I mentioned, 2.26 million. This is just wonderful stuff. If you love Nintendo, if you love data, if you love successful video game sales, you can't help but be happy. The launch schedule of primary Nintendo products by region, got some cool stuff. Obviously, Pokemon Legends Arceus just came out. Kirby and the Forgotten Land coming March 25th. Splatoon 3 is coming out this year. The sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Bayonetta 3. Metroid Prime 4 not being listed as a 2022 title, but will eventually come out, so I'm not going to count that here right now. Triangle Strategy. Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot. Those are some pretty high-profile games, all scheduled for release in 2022. And of course, you add Metroid Prime 4, and the future of Nintendo Switch games looks tremendous. It truly does. We've got a lot coming up from Nintendo's partners, region by region. 2022 looks really solid. I said it in my video last night. This could be Nintendo's greatest output year of software ever. We'll find out by the time the end of the year if we have any surprises, If everything comes out, doesn't get delayed, doesn't get pushed to 2023, and a couple of surprises, I think it's definitely deserving of contention, at least, for best software year for Nintendo ever, right? Here on my Twitter, let's see if I had anything interesting to contribute from what I put up last night versus what I just told you now. Yeah, the 103.54 million, that was exciting. I was very happy about that. Here we have those software. Happy about my Metroid Dread 2.74. I told you it sold over 2.6, so that's pretty cool to see. Nintendo Switch software, 766.41 million. The exact number, if I didn't mention it earlier, of how many Nintendo Switch consoles sold in that last quarter was 10.67 million in quarter 4. Like I said here, before turning 5. That's really cool. Here was that list that I was talking about where I got the information from, was Nintendo's page. And you see, just how well did Nintendo Switch software do? What are the numbers at now? What did it do in the last quarter? What it's at now? What it did in the last quarter? So for games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a title that came out shortly after launch, to do another 4.61 million is terrific. Like I said, some of those are packaged in with Nintendo Switch though. 2.77 for Animal Crossing, 1.69 for Smash Brothers, 1.67 for Breath of the Wild, 1.26 for Sword and Shield. That's awesome. Despite new Pokemon games coming out and stuff like that, Despite so many new games coming out, old titles are still doing well. You understand that? The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game that was the launch title for the system. It's as close to being 5 years old as you could possibly get. That and 1-2 Switch. Sold another 1.67 million in his last quarter, on the verge of turning 5. Crazy success. Awesome. Super Mario Odyssey with 1.07. Super Mario Party, 910,000. Keep in mind, Mario Party Superstars came out, and Super Mario Party still sold almost a cool million. Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee, another 500,000. Obviously, Diamond and Pearls remakes, 13.97. Ring Fit Adventure, another 1.32 as a new IP. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, 12.72. Luigi's Mansion 3. Here I go into just where they're at and not how much they did in the quarter. I just did that for the top 10. But yeah, 11.04. 3D World, Mario, Bowser's Fury, 8.85. Mario Party Superstars, 5.43. Wasn't out long. Skyward Sword HD, 3.85. It will hit 4 million. It's already passed the original Skyward Sword on Wii, so that's awesome. It did that a long time ago, though. Metroid Dread, 2.74. All right. New Pokemon Snap. So here's that little part of Pokemon Snap. The game sold approximately 340,000 in Japan. That includes what is publicly known from Famitsu and what is internally known from eShop on my side. So that's an approximate 340,000, which brings that total up to 2.7 million. And that's really nice to see. 2.7 million for New Pokemon Snap. Really fun game. I hope it hits 3. I expect that it will. It might take a little bit of time, but by summertime, that'll be a 3 million seller. And for that matter, Metroid Dread will be 3 million by my expectation end of March, and 3.3 plus by the time it's 1 year old. Mario Golf Super Rush, 2.26. Miitopia, 1.63. Big Brain, 1.28. That was a December game, like I said earlier. WarioWare, 1.24. Game Builder Garage, 1.01. And then here's a thing that I was like, hey, Reggie, remember when you were asking about how much did we think Nintendo Switch was going to sell? Well, there you go. And then I, give Nintendo and Doug Bowser a shout out too. So that's it. Whew, that was a half hour of fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun covering it. This is good stuff, If you have a sports team that you love, you root for them to succeed. You get joy out of it too. This is my team. This is my, number one passion in life. Of course, outside of my family, my wife and my son and my daughter, my parents, but like in terms of life, of what I like most, any kind of medium, any kind of form of entertainment, it's video games. And in particular, it's Nintendo. I value the whole industry. I like everything, but Nintendo holds that special place, It's part of my nostalgia. And even not from a nostalgia perspective, trying to be objective and look at what has gone on in the industry, I give them the most credit for pioneering things in terms of the advancement of controls in games, in features and functionality, even in genres. They don't hit everything 100% all the time. They aren't the first or the best in everything always, but collectively, overall, they are the best video game company in the world, from hardware and software overall. And yeah, I love Nintendo. So thank you. I hope you had fun watching, and I'll see you all next time for some more video game sales. Take it easy, everybody. Bye. Oh, so there's one other thing that I was going to say, and that is Pokemon Legends Arceus. In Japan, and I'm going to save this for my video game sales Famitsu update, but in Japan, the game has sold 1.4 million opening weekend physical alone, And if you include eShop, I could tell you it's over 1.67 million, as the game did well over 250,000 on the Japanese eShop. Okay, so stay tuned for my other video game sales video, which is going to include Famitsu's Japanese report for the previous week. All right, thanks again.